Hello, everybody. My name is Joshua Bowen. I'm here with my wonderful, lovely, handsome co-host, Aiden Batty and Scylla. And today, we're going to be talking about the story-driven, narrative, Wild West, horse, gun-slinging outlaw, shooting Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh boy. What a game to get into for our first episode for our new podcast, Game Show. This podcast, I intend to make a few episodes going forward, and I want to cover things such as video games I'm playing, games that had an impact on my life, and I just want this to be a fun, safe space where we can discuss our favorite games. How are you doing today, Aiden?
Oh, I'm fantastic, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I just came back from a lift, and now I'm ready to talk about one of my favorite games I've played this year, Red Dead Redemption 2. So, with all the introductions out of the way, let's get into this wonderful episode. Today we're going to be talking about the story of the game, the themes of the game, our personal thoughts, and the last subject we're going to cover will be music and vibes we got from this game. Because that's a major part, but we'll get into that later. So, first off, the story. Aiden, do you want to go into some of the story beats of the game?
Oh, yeah. So, I played this game back in high school. It was back in junior year. It was on sale on PlayStation. A bunch of my football buddies were like, "Oh, you gotta try this game." It's one of my football buddies was like, "Yeah, it's life-changing, you know?" And I was like, "Well, it's a video game." I grew up playing Nintendo games all my life, and I didn't really experience like that life-changing of a story through a Nintendo game. Not saying those games are bad, they're just... So, I decided to buy it on Christmas with a gift card. Got it. And then I played up until Chapter 2, and I took a 6-month break from it, and then I jumped right back in, I think around summertime. In this game, it's a sequel to... Well, it's not a sequel. It's a prequel to Red Dead 1. I won't go into details about Red Dead 1's story. However, there are so many parallels when it comes to these two games. And
first off, I want to mention, we will be covering spoilers of this video game. So if you have not played the game and intend to play the game, I highly recommend you do not listen to what we say.
Yes.
It is not one you want to get spoiled.
Yes. Yes, I got spoiled before I played the game, and I still cried. And it's about a group of outlaws in the West while the idea of an outlaw is dying, and the law is chasing them, and it's in like a fictional thing.
It's about late 1800s.
Yeah, it's a fictional world based off of America with some real American locations sprinkled throughout. You play as Arthur Morgan. In the beginning of the game, he claims to not be a good man. And this is where the story really takes off because you are at the helm of Arthur and his decisions. Because the game will sprinkle you with decisions like, hey, you want to kill this man or let him go? Or it teases you at the beginning. It's like, well, these choices are going to get bigger and bigger throughout the game, so you might as well... it builds you up to the climax of the game.
And what was that bar called?
The honor system. Honor system. And your leader is Dutch van der Linde.
Dutch.
Oh, yeah. He's a very ambitious man, and he's made some reckless decisions. But the reason for that is, being a group of outlaws, you're going to make some reckless decisions. But Micah Bell, a new person added to... the gang recently, he really influences Dutch and pressures him to make these bad decisions. So, you're in this group of outlaws, and it begins in like a mountain region, and it's really cold, and it's really slow, and then it really picks up once you get out in Chapter 2 to Valentine.
And the game is separated into different chapters. Usually, each chapter covers like a different location that the gang is at. So the first chapter, like Aiden said, it starts in a mountainous, like snowy area. But then once you get out of that snowy area, that's where chapter 2 begins. You stay in like a wooded, hilly area.
Yeah. Since this is a prequel, many people are mad that we're not playing as the first game's protagonist, John Marston. He takes a backseat at least through the first half of the game. But we do get insight in his dynamic with his girlfriend at the time, Abigail, and his son, Jack. And there's like this cool thing where each time you're at the camp, you get secret interactions. You get to know each one of these characters. Like
I
this,
love the interactions,
Yeah.
by the way. They're so
and
fun.
they only get better later on towards the end of the game, especially when you get that scene where there's a secret scene where you're sitting down and Mary Beth, she's a girl at the camp, she'll come and sit down next to you and you talk about, well, I'll jump back to that. But throughout the game, if you choose the high honor route, which is the canon ending, I believe, because there's the low honor ending and the high honor ending. And spoilers again, but the high honor ending is helping John escape to his family at the end of the game, help him get away from the law, because Dutch has officially lost his mind after losing Hosea and Lenny, and Micah really takes control of the situation, and Micah rats to the law, and the law is like on your tail, and Dutch just loses his mind. And everything is falling apart. People are dying. People are leaving left and right. And there's a huge divide. And Arthur starts to question his loyalty to Dutch. And there's even a little conversation between John and Arthur about loyalty and being loyal to what matters to you. And that the whole thing with Dutch is falling apart. That's when Arthur really brings up the point. It's like, you got to get out of here. Take your family a run. So at the end of the game, you help his family escape. But you're also... Earlier in the game, you're diagnosed with tuberculosis.
Yep.
Which has no...
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler. Which has no cure at the time or, like, medicine to help. And you're dying. And this is a really changing point for Arthur's character. Because this is his chance to make things right and be a good person. And if you do side quests, you get this really special scene with a nun at a train station where he talks about his fear. He talks about his father and his mom and their relationship, and it wasn't great at home. He talks about his son and his wife, which is mentioned throughout. Like, you get little segments where you're riding on a horse and you hear people talk. Arthur mentions that he had a son and he has a wife, and then he wasn't ready to support them because he was, a careless man, outlaw, all over the map. And then when he comes back to that house later, his wife and child have been killed. And he says to the nun, he says, "I'm afraid." And then the nun tells him to do the right thing and take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act. And this is really where Arthur starts to switch over into the high honor mindset, which is the canon ending. And he decides to stand up to Dutch and Micah. And even though you don't kill Dutch or Micah, you give John time to leave with his family. Because Micah even says, since he's kind of like the villain of this story, because he tells the law and he controls Dutch and everything, and Dutch is falling apart. He even calls Arthur his son. He doesn't know what to do. And he literally sits there and watches his son die before him. And he doesn't know what to do, and he walks away. And his story is continued in Red Dead 1, which I won't talk about, but it is pretty good. It's really good, the continuation of that. Because Red Dead 1 was made before Red Dead 2, but it feels so coherent throughout. So at the end, yes, I'm finally getting there, because there's lots to unpack here with the story.
There is.
Micah is like, well, you lost, I won, you lost, Arthur. And Arthur's like, John made it, he won. And that's where Arthur's like, yeah, I may have lost, but John won. So, you die looking off at the sun rise.
Again, spoilers.
Spoiler. You look at the sun rising, which is a camp interaction when he talks to Hosea, Dutch's right-hand man, who also dies.
Hosea's like the, he's the person that, out of Dutch and Hosea is a bit older, but he has a more level head when it comes to formulating plans for the gang.
Yeah.
And just keeping them on a straight arrow path.
He was Dutch's conscience. And once Hosea's out of the picture, and Micah takes control.
Killed by the law.
Killed by the law. Dutch really loses it, and he questions his loyalty in his own game. But yeah, there's a camp interaction earlier in the game when Jose is like, Arthur, how would you like to die? And he says, face me to the west, and I can watch the sun set, he says, and remember all the good times they have. Well, he doesn't die facing the west, but he actually dies to a rising sun, which shows the new life he was living with the high honor ending. It shows how much he has changed as a character, because he got the tuberculosis beating a man.
Oh, I thought you were talking about how Hosea... No, Hosea dies facing the ground.
Yes, well, I was talking about Arthur, because Arthur at the end, when he's dying of tuberculosis, he looks at the sun rise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's
very symbolic. We can go over that in the themes section.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll get back to that.
Well, yeah. I can dive a little bit into themes.
I think, so for the story, personally, I love how it's separated into chapters. Some chapters I like more than others. The first, 2 chapters are a lot more, chill,
it's
relaxed.
Slow, but it's introducing you to the world and characters. And then it picks up at the end of 2 into 3. And then 4 when you get to Saint Denis. And there's the bank robbery. And it ends on this giant climax of Lenny and Hosea dying. And then questions like who's really alive and dead. Because then it takes a weird left turn. And you're like, well, now you're stuck on this island called Guarma.
Well, Guarma, when I was playing the game, and the end of chapter 4 was just you going to an island far away from the entire map, like in Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little flabbergasted, to be honest. I was happy because it was like a new area to explore, new characters, and all that. But it seemed very separated from the overall story. So you get stranded there while leaving a botched bank robbery.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to escape the law. So you hop on a boat, which is supposed to take you back to camp, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But something goes wrong. The boat gets way off course in a storm, and you end up at a deserted island that's having a uprising at the island. Totally, separated from the story. But being on that island, it affects the characters so much because Dutch is on that island with you, and that's where you start to see Dutch, who used to be a father figure, a character that you looked up to.
Mm-hmm.
He starts to slip. He kills an old woman just because he didn't trust her, and that was a really brutal scene. I mean, there are a lot of memes. We'll go over the memes. But Dutch has always been a character that's had a plan in mind. He has a plan. Let me play the clip of him saying he has a plan. It's iconic.
I had a goddamn plan.
He has a plan.
He has a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that Guarma may
he
seem like a right turn, or crazy right turn, but like you said, it influences the character because it's implied that Micah wraths to the law after Guarma when they get back, and that's really where things start to fall apart.
Which might I say, Micah, I hate him. He is the friend in your friend group who just talks behind your back. He's a rat. Everything about he is a
and he's a perfectly
rat.
well acted and because I was doing research on the actor. He's hilarious, but it's just such great writing because you just hate him. Even at the beginning of the game.
Oh my gosh!
Before he's a villain, you think he's a villain. You just hate him. He's just Micah. You don't like Micah.
There's a mission where you have to free Micah from a jail. Dutch tells you to free him from a jail in a town that's a little bit west, and instead of just going quietly after you spring him from the jail, he kills half the people in that town just to get a gun satchel or a gun holster. He is crazy. I hate him.
Yeah. So I could dive on and on about the story. Just if you see it on sale on anything you play, it's $20 usually. Please, please, please buy it. It's one of the greatest stories, but I'm going to dive a bit into the epilogue because that's honestly its own game. It's technically a segue into Red Dead 1, which Do I? I don't. Think,
I haven't played Red
He
Dead
hasn't
1,
played
so
it.
I'm
can't
not
spoil-
trying to get spoiled.
Okay, well, Red Dead 2 story really comes to life when you see the parallels in Red Dead 1. And that's all I'll say. Because all the things that Arthur says, especially to John, really come back in Red Dead 1. That's all I'll say. Epilogue follows John.
You play as John.
You play as John.
After Arthur is dead.
Yep. And
Yep.
you're with his family. And then you try to find a job. Then your family leaves you for a bit. Then you build a house. And you meet some old gang members like Uncle. My favorite character.
I'm going to play the clip.
Yeah, go find the clip. And then you find Charles. Charles is one of the greatest gang members in the original Dutch gang because he really helps Arthur in his change. And there's a whole side plot about Rain's Fall and the Native Americans on the land and all that stuff.
So Uncle is a crotchety old freeloader.
Yes.
That's in the gang. And you meet up with him in the epilogue. I mean, most of the gang you figure is either dead or somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But you find Uncle, and he is just so funny. I'm going to play this one clip from the game. He really does not hold back anything when he lays into John. It's so fun.
Oh, is as sour as week-old milk. No wonder she didn't stay with you. Not even a retired $2 whore would stay with you. That's the goddamn truth. Now, you used to be decent company, but now you're worse than a snake with a toothache. All he does is whine.
Excuse me?
Oh, don't get all angry. It ain't gonna change nothing. You're hopeless. And I mean that literally. You got no hope. Dang. I mean, look at you. Look at this place. Your dream home. I've had better nightmares than this dream. Oh, darling Abigail, I've changed. Come live with me in an outhouse I wouldn't ask my worst enemy to take a shit in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very memed on clip.
Yes, Uncle is a fan favorite, and he only gets better in Red Dead 1. But, I won't say anything else. But I will say the epilogue really sets up what Arthur says. We're going to dive a bit into themes here. I'm segueing a bit.
That's okay.
Arthur says to John about the loyalty speech, being loyal to what matters. Arthur also tells John this: run away and don't look back. And we see John in the epilogue not follow that. He does not follow that because when given the chance to get revenge on Micah, it sets up all these events with police officers finding Micah's body and then starting to investigate. Well,
that sounds like Red Dead 1.
No, it's at the end. At the end of Red Dead 2, you get that scene of the lawman looking at John and his family because they found the body of Micah Bell. And that's all I'll say. But John fails to run away and not look back. He fails to do what Arthur said because Arthur saved him. He's like, you got to get away from this life. But John ignores it, and it's kind of really sad. And then I wish I could talk about Red Dead 1, but I can't because
I'm sorry.
It gets so much, like there's so much more you can dive from this story.
Maybe once I play Red Dead 1, then
we'll
we
do
can
a sequel
an episode.
podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some of the themes in this game, Arthur is a mind we see in his journal and everything, is the concept of being a good man.
Definitely redemption.
Redemption.
In the title.
Arthur's redemption.
Tuberculosis redemption.
Yes. At the face of death, Arthur starts to question his loyalty and his own life's decisions. And throughout the game, when you do the right thing, you do the good thing, people are like, well, you're a good man, Arthur Morgan. And Arthur Morgan responds, I'm far from good, or I'm just doing what I think is right. But he's far from a good man. And he never calls himself a good man throughout the game. But when we see that change, we see him turn into a good person, helping people, helping Sadie at the end of the game with her trauma. Sadie's a character in the game whose husband dies at the beginning of the game, and you rescue her. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And we see her grow into somewhat like Arthur, or a version of Arthur. But Arthur's themes in this game is really powerful. He even says we're more ghosts than people, especially at the age of outlaws passing away. They're more ghosts than people, or a ghost of what was than an actual person. But the takeaway, from this theme in the game, is what the nun says at the train station. take a gamble that love exists and do a loving act. And then also Reverend Swanson in an alternate version of that cutscene says,
A character from the gang.
yes, he's also from the game. He tells Arthur, you're not a good man, Arthur, but you're not all bad. Just do what you think is right, and everything will be just fine. I think that personally that changed me because we in life we face a lot of trials and challenges. We can put our head down and just let it all happen, or we can ignore other people's help, or we can ignore helping other people. But that game changed because even though, despite if our past is messy or messed up or we did awful things, Arthur did some awful things, but he chose to be a good man and change his ways, and that's the redemption, and that's doing the right thing, doing what he thinks is right, and everything will be just fine, and taking that risk that love exists, and he's going to do that loving act. And he did it all the way until the end, even saving John's life. And that's a powerful scene because Arthur's like, I don't have much time. You got to go. Take your family and go. And it's even more powerful when you dive into his journal, and he was actually, at a time, very in love with John's wife, Abigail. He was always regretted not marrying Abigail, and he writes about it in his journal, but he decides to save both of them to show that love. And that's redemption right there. That's the whole point.
I always thought, wow. So I've played this game once, but I played it pretty recently. And I've always seen the character of John as a bit of what I feel like Arthur in the game is trying to let John be what he feels like he never was able to be. So Arthur, he feels like he's done so much wrong that he can't get his redemption, that he can't be a good man. But in the end of the game, when telling John to go be with his family, I felt like that's the sort of thing that he is gifting John with, something that he never could do himself, especially since he was dying and on his last legs. It's especially sad in this story's case. I did cry. I cried while playing the game.
Yeah, and it's also a bit tragic because then we see John go back to that old lifestyle and take away what Arthur gave him in the epilogue.
Yeah.
Because he gets this nice peaceful life, but when we give him the chance to be an outlaw again and do all these outlaw things that's going to put heat on his back and his family's back, he decides to take the revenge, and does not listen to Arthur to run away and not look back.
I think the honorable Arthur, like going the high honor route, which I did, is a very inspiring person, Arthur Morgan. He's a very well-written character. And in his actions, he proves that he can be redeemed and that people can change. But he dies.
But he's also a good male role model. I mean, and in general, and also he's a good role model because in life we also tend to look at people's past so much. We judge people by their past, and if Arthur was just judged by his past, you're like, well, that's a bad person. But then if you see his change, you see him do all these good things, not to try to make up for what he did, but just doing the right thing, is something we need to realize as people and as Christians too. Which the game is not Christian inherently, but it has messages and themes that we can take away from it. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to dive into my thoughts, and I'll do your thoughts. This rating for it's one of the best games. It's top 2, and it ain't 2, so it's number 1. I mean, Mario. I would say it's tied with Mario Galaxy. Mario Galaxy is a good gameplay. I'll talk about that at a different time. But Red Dead is just beautiful. It came out in 2018, and it still beats most game graphics to this day. It's gorgeous. The world's alive. There's so much to do. I have 300 hours in it on PlayStation 5, and I'm currently in the process of rebuying it to play it again on PC. So I'm probably going to get up there with the hour in playtime. And if you don't understand, like, why are you buying it again? It's just that great of a game. And also, it's that great of an open world because the people who made GTA, Grand Theft Auto. So they're already great at making open worlds. Memories, I remember playing the last mission Arthur's death at like 3 a.m. And I knew it was coming because it got spoiled for me, and I was still crying. And then that was a crazy memory. But I was playing it so much during that summer, and the impact is that it literally did change my life, like what my football friends said, and it really opened my eyes to, man, video games can be great. Video games can be a great form of storytelling. And when I told my dad writes movies and short films and stuff and works and stuff like that and scripts. I'm like, Dad, he didn't believe in video games. But then when I told him about Red Dead and how much it's changed me, he did his own research on the game and now he wants to play it because he says this looks incredible. You know, it's that great of a game. But like the vibes, music, I listen to the music. It's peaceful, it's laid back. Like banjo music and little choral stuff, and it's not in your face of the music, and then the vibes is gorgeous. It's almost photorealistic, but has its own sense of art style and color that the real world lacks in some way. So those are my thoughts.
I'll give my thoughts now. I think it is a masterclass in video games. I mean, it has so many things that you can do. Like, you can literally pour in 300 hours, and there's still stuff to do. There's multiple different endings you can get, so that adds replay value. I finished the game in winter. Sorry. I finished the game this last winter, and I was actually on FaceTime with Aiden while I was finishing because he wanted to see what my reaction was. And no video game has left such an impact on me, at least emotionally. This game was so potently good. I still can't get over how I felt playing each of the chapters, how much the characters affected me. Like, I really like the character of Dutch, and seeing Dutch slip and start to go a little bit, like, off the rails and start not making sense and not making good decisions for the group, that broke my heart. I loved Dutch so much. All the character deaths were really impactful. Getting to see Arthur save John in the end, the last thing they say to each other, when Arthur says that he's going to hold back the gang from
off,
John,
yeah.
and then John says, "You're my brother."
And Arthur goes, I know.
And
And he says, get out here and be a man.
And he puts his hat on John, and John leaves.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's one of the best games ever made. I agree with Aiden.
Yep.
It's
timeless because even today it rivals current games, and also graphically it looks like it's in the future. With graphics.
It looks like way ahead of some of the games that come out nowadays. I mean, of course it's not perfect, like super, like 4K, Ultra HD, whatever, but it still holds up. As someone playing in 2025, 2024, I had no problem with it. Yeah, this game was something else. I would highly recommend it to any of our listeners, although you have just been spoiled on how it ends.
Well, like I said, I was spoiled too, and then either way, it will still pull at your heartstrings. Yeah. There's still personalized experiences, different things you can do, and your own adventure you can go on. Just be careful, because lots of people, everyone I tell to play this game, I say, the first 2 chapters are slow. But that's for a reason, to build up the story. So if you're playing the game, you're like, this is boring. Well, first of all, your attention span's messed up. Second of all, let it tell its story. Let it introduce you to this world. Because then, boom, it kicks off in chapter 3. And it gets bigger and bigger until that big climax, and then boom. So it's worth it. Just take your time and have fun. You know?
Definitely. When I beat it, I was thinking to myself that I'm probably going to play through again.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
I kind of want to get the low honor ending.
That I can go in
just be
hours
a terrible
about that.
person.
I can
kill
go to
pedestrians.
hours and hours about the low honor ending. It's not satisfying, and it's not canon. I don't think it's canon, because you're also given you're also given the option to go back for the money at the end of the game instead of helping John, which you do, your whole honor goes down because you're not helping John. You're just going for selfish greed, which first of all doesn't make sense because you're about to die while you would go back for the money.
I almost went
Yeah.
back for the money.
So if you go back for the
yeah.
money, Micah will stab you, and then you try to stab him, and then I won't. You just it's not satisfying because it just goes. That's it. It's over. Like a gunshot goes off and you're done. There's no satisfying conclusion to Arthur's character. Everything that was built up falls apart, and I don't think that's not canon to me. That's no. Yes. Oh, am I closing this?
No. I was just asking if you had to go.
Oh no.
I'm okay. Well, I think that we covered everything pretty well. I mean, the music and the vibes. My thoughts on it. I really like the music, especially the more like upbeat cinematic scenes, like when the gang marches to the Braithwaite mansion. Mm-hmm. That scene was epic.
Down here now. Yeah.
You inbred trash.
There's some really funny moments, and there's some really awesome moments, like that moment where the gang comes together and are like, let's go save this boy. He's part of our family, because the gang is a family.
The gang is a family until the family falls apart.
Until the family falls apart.
In the second half.
Because then you're like, our boy is kidnapped. Well, let's all come together and go get them. You know, it was awesome mission.
That was one of the last moments of the gang's camaraderie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But if you see on sale, play it.
Play it, yes.
And after you play that, play Red Dead 1.
Mm-hmm.
Red Dead 1, it came out at a weird time in video games where it's not polished. It doesn't look great. And some of the missions are kind of boring. But it's not as like fully cinematic as Red Dead 2. But Red Dead 1 is the not perfect closure, but gives some closure and makes you think about storylines that happen in Red Dead 2 more. Mm-hmm. And it's worth it. It's like watching part 1 to. It's like watching part 2 after seeing part 1. Mm-hmm. And I'm crazy how they were able to do that when Red Dead 1 came out first, and there's no plot for Red Dead 2 to base it off of. So Red Dead 2 is based off of Red Dead 1 plot. It's just so confusing, but it works. So if you see it, buy it, play it.
I got it for $10.
Yeah, savor it. I mean, it's on almost everything now. But even if you're not a video game person, you'll find something, I think. Mm-hmm. That's my 2 cents. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to close us out today with one of my favorite songs. When Arthur is dying of tuberculosis, you get your last ride with your horse, who's been with you the whole game, if you keep it alive, that is.
Yeah.
Mine got hit by a train. But you ride your horse back to camp, and while you're riding, a song plays called That's the Way It Is. Very emotional song. So I'm going to play that as our outro song. But as far as our favorite tuberculosis patient, Arthur Morgan, Red Dead Redemption 2 being one of the best games ever, I think that's pretty good.
That's very solid.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's all the time we got today then.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time where we'll be discussing Fortnite Battle Royale.
Oh, yeah.
See ya.
The many miles we walk. That's the